It's nuts.
Impressive. The bound of public.
My 2 feet.
My walk sign. Google Maps doesn't take into account New York walking speeds.
Yeah.
Really?
It's always too long.
Really?
This is,
Yeah.
To be like somewhat accurate with like delays and. Like getting out of my factoring, getting out of my apartment.
That's true.
Hmm.
Elevator rides.
Yeah.
I'm still also
Putting
considered
shoes on.
flying as function now.
Plus or minus a few minutes. I feel like it's usually fairly accurate.
Okay, we are
Totally.
ready.
You could beat it. All right.
Ready.
Welcome to the October 7th meeting of the Transportation Committee. My name is Jason Fromowitz and I am the chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by Assistant District Manager Brendan Berth. This meeting is called to order at 7:01 PM. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you can raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. We have multiple people fighting over taking minutes tonight. B, I know you emailed me, but if you don't object, Barack had done some pre-work, it sounds like. So I'll take you up on an upcoming meeting if that's okay with you. I take it, yes, B. Any objection to Brock taking minutes? Can she hear? Can you hear us?
Audio?
No.
You are able to hear us.
Is anybody able to hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, we'll move on, so B will catch that at some point, thank you. Okay, so Brock, thank you for taking me.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, we will now take attendance by roll call. Brendan will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your name. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Michael Cohen.
Present.
B. Desmond.
Present.
Maya Donahue.
Present.
Barack Friedman.
Present.
Jason Fromowitz.
Present.
Eric Goldberg. Marion Rowe.
Present.
Larry Shire.
Present.
Gabe Terzo.
Present.
Jerry Weinstein.
Present.
And Hyder Zaidi. I'm not hearing from, but we have a quorum.
All right. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objection, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Just quickly before we move on, B, I just want to make sure you heard that Brock's taking the minutes.
I heard it now.
Okay, as long as you don't object, he had done some pre-work. I know you had also volunteered.
Yeah,
I'll take
no
it.
problem.
Okay, thank you. All right, the minutes from the June 2024 and September 2024 meetings were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt both meetings as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting either set of minutes, please raise your hand and indicate which minutes you would like to amend. All right, seeing no objections, the minutes from June 2024 and September 2024 meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or you wish to make a motion, please raise your hand. I will identify you so you can speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. Chat function for committee members present via Zoom should only be used for committee business, should not be used for any committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to technical difficulties that you are having or to state in writing, or to state information in writing, like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. All right, moving on to tonight's agenda. First, we have report from New York City Department of Transportation. I know Colleen's not with us tonight, and we had somebody else joining us from DOT, but I don't know who that was.
Jackie Lazaro.
Hey everyone, good afternoon, good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, here you're great. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Hello. Like you mentioned, Colleen is on a much deserved vacation this week. But just some very quick updates. As you may know, it's Biketober 2024. So each spring, fall, and fall, DOT hosts a bunch of events to encourage cycling. And as always, Biketober is one of our big events. Some of the events that we hold are Bike the Block that help engage the community engage the community to teach them tips about riding safety, bike repair sessions, rules of the road, and group bike rides. In the CB6 area, we are doing 2 delivery worker outreach events. So in these events, we typically offer free information and safety equipment to delivery workers. This includes like helmets, vests, and like literature explaining the rules of the road and what is expected. And for CB6, the 2 events are, so we have one on Wednesday, October 9th from 4 to 6. And this is right on the border on 14th Street and 2nd Avenue. And then we have one on Friday, October 25th, again from 4 to 6. And this would be on 28th Street and 2nd Avenue. And that is pretty much it for my updates. Happy to take any questions.
I'll start us off with one, then a couple it looks like we have on the committee. So there was a presentation that was given to the committee a couple months back on improvements to 2nd Avenue, widening the bike lane and offsetting the bus lane. That's all done up until 23rd Street, but I believe the plan was to go all the way down to Houston Street, but it looks like it's only been done up to 23rd. Is that still planned for that stretch of the segment? I don't know if you have an answer there, and if it's still going to be done this before the winter.
So I am not the lead on that project, but I'm happy to check in with the team and ask them, to get that update for you guys, or ask Colleen to give you guys that update once you get back. And you said this was 2nd Avenue. This section you guys were asking specifically about was south of
23rd Street.
South of 23rd. Okay, I can check in and find out what the latest is.
Thanks very much.
Good.
Yeah, I have a quick question for the literature for delivery bike drivers. Are they in multiple languages or just in English?
No, so we do offer them in multiple languages. I wish I had the list, but we do offer them in multiple languages, and the team will go out and research what in that area, like what is the most common language. So like when we did it in the Heights, I forget what the language was. It was like Spanish and English. So they do research ahead of time to make sure that they provide.
Great, thank you.
I would like to know, what is there any plans for like improving the bike lanes and making them camera enforced or better protected?
And I'm so sorry, could you repeat, it was what kind of enforced?
Enforced by like cameras or better protection measures, helping to make things safer between bicyclists and cars, make bicyclists more visible to cars.
Yeah, so I think we are, working on bike projects borough-wide, and most, or not most, all of them are to improve safety throughout the borough of Manhattan. At this moment, I'm not aware of any specific projects in CB6. I know you guys have the 2nd Avenue bike lane, and I'm not aware of anything about speed cameras for bike lanes. But one thing that we do is, have these events to talk to cyclists and, let them know the rules of the road, and just kind of make sure that they have that information, make sure that they have the safety equipment they need as well, like the helmets, like the high-vis vests. So that is something that DOT does do.
And Michael, if there's anything you have an idea for, like an area where you'd like to see improvement specifically, or?
I think that they should have probably some like bumps between the bike lane and the regular lane so that like, drivers know when they're crossing the bike lane, know not to go into there, and like maybe have like, you know, the bus lane, they have an enforcement camera. I wonder what happens if they have one on the bike lane.
Let's chat, separately. We can talk about how we can bring that into like a agenda item of an upcoming meeting specifically. Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
yep, sounds good. Larry, go ahead.
This is a question relating to the intersection between DOT and the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project over near Stuyvesant Cove Park. There are three entrances to Stuyvesant Cove Park at 23rd Street, 20th, and 18th Street, where there are wall openings and sliding barriers, which are currently having their tracks filled with asphalt. We were advised over in our Land Use and Waterfront Committee meeting that DOT will be responsible for operating these barriers, the gates. My question to you is, since they indicated they should be operable by the end of the year, does DOT have a plan to fix the tracks, to provide for safe crossings of the tracks by people in rollators or other wheelchairs with or strollers with very small wheels? And then a separate question relates to the traffic which crosses, especially at 23rd Street, where vehicles turn into the Skyports garage from northbound Avenue C, but have to encounter bicyclists in the bike lane in a kind of a blind situation for both of them. That's been brought to the committee's attention with photographs and a few months ago, and DOT promised to make improvements, and I was wondering if there's an update on that.
Sure, and I'm so sorry for that second location. You said it was
This is near
28th?
the Skyports garage at Avenue C and East 23rd Street.
23rd. Okay, so I am not familiar on any of the ESCR stuff, but again, I'm happy to check in with the team and see what plans there are for accessibility needs with the tracks. And for the Avenue C and East 23rd Street, again, I can check in and see what's going on to make sure that there is, you know, clear indication that there's a bike lane to pedestrians and for cyclists to note they're pedestrians.
Well, I'm also wondering if you have a plan to assign personnel and train them for the operation of the floodgates.
Okay, I can check in with that. See what
This is kind of timely because we're at the 12th anniversary of Sandy, and there's a big Cat 5 hurricane bearing down on the west coast of Florida. So having our barriers in working order would be reassuring.
No, of course, and I will put my contact information in the chat, and feel free to reach out to me offline, and I can definitely, you know, circulate that information and get that back to you.
Thank you.
Mary, sorry.
Hi, Jackie. I have a question about the outreach event. One of the locations you said was 14th and 2nd Avenue, and then I'm just trying to picture what it's gonna look like. Like, are you gonna have a tent set up? Are you gonna wave at the delivery workers and make it look like you're gonna pull them over and ticket them? Like, I'm just trying to figure out like how you're actually gonna get them to like stop.
Sure. So typically, and I'm not too familiar with this location, so I'm not sure. But typically, we'll partner with a local community organization. In the past, it could have been like a church or something, or a community like youth center or something like that. And we will have a tent set up in like their parking area. We'll have DOT personnel coming out on the street near the bike lanes, flagging people down, like, you know, trying to get their attention to let them know about the event. And usually that's how we'll funnel people into the events, especially for the delivery outreach.
As long as they know they're not getting pulled over and ticketed.
No, no.
Hey, Jackie, just two really quick questions.
Mhm.
One, what's going on with the delays on the 59th Street Bridge? Why is that delayed? I saw like the fence going up, so it seemed like it's getting safe there. Why delay it?
So I'm not too sure what's going on with the 59th Street Bridge, but again, can check in with the team and ask Colleen to give you an update or give you an update back as soon as I hear back.
And the second quick question is, you did this beautiful Third Avenue upgrade in CB8, and where's the love for CB6? For Third Avenue.
For Third Avenue, well, we, you know, happy to look into it and see what the team has planned for CB6. I know we have a lot of projects throughout the borough, but if there is any interest for, again, any sort of project, please feel free to, you know, reach out to us. And again, we'll take that into consideration as we work on our plans moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yes and no. Okay. All right, let's move on to second topic, which is the New York City Office of Technology and Innovation on Link 5G program. I will give you guys the floor. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys coming. There was a lot of open questions about the 5G program, so from our last meeting, so we appreciate you guys coming and appreciate you guys giving us some information.
Of course. Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Brett Sykoff. I am the Executive Director of Franchise Administration with the New York City Office of Tech and Innovation. So you can see it all around me. So again, thank you so much for having us. And by way of introductions, I'm joined by my colleague, Beth Siebold. She's our External Affairs Manager. And in a moment, I'll pass it on to Rob Sakota, who represents the franchisee City Bridge, the company that's deploying the Link kiosks throughout the city. It's a little background on OTI for those who are unfamiliar. OTI was formed a couple of years ago when the new administration took over as essentially a consolidation of a whole bunch of other tech agencies. We're formerly known as DOIT, Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. But we were, as a number of tech agencies like MOCTO, the Mayor's Office of Data and Analytics, Cyber Command, were all consolidated under one umbrella known as OTI. My division, specifically franchise administration, we oversee all the city's telecommunications franchises. So that's your cable television franchises, the mobile telecommunications, public communication structures, or the Link kiosks, all the city's fiber franchises, any company that does business in the city, utilizing the city's streets, rights of way, property, essentially comes through our office to get approval to deploy their services. We also initiate and oversee various broadband and digital equity programs. Some of you all may be familiar with Big Apple Connect, which provides high-speed internet to the city's New York City public housing residents across the city. So that's 220 developments, 150,000 households are getting free high-speed internet thanks to the administration. So we make sure that all folks are connected regardless of income and status. But more about what we're here to talk about today. About a decade ago at this point, the city issued a solicitation to replace the city's outmoded, outdated, derelict, unused payphones around the city. There were several thousand littering the city with a modern new amenity that provide useful amenities for residents. So we entered into a contract with a company called City Bridge to deploy what's known as the Link NYC program, or Link NYC kiosks. Kiosks provide free internet, free public Wi-Fi, free phone calling. You're able to charge your device, has access to community information, 311, 911, a whole bunch of city services, and it has advertising on the sides, which provide much needed revenue to the city and supports the larger program. A couple of years ago, we transitioned not away entirely from the Link NYC, but onto a new version of it, a bigger structure that can provide all those same amenities that I just described, but also houses, essentially has equipment cabinets on the top which provides space for wireless companies to put their 5G radios and antenna to expand 5G coverage and capacity throughout the city. So we're here to talk about a number of sites today that were recently proposed. And with that, I will turn it over to Rob, who will go through a little bit more background on the franchise and go into any specific sites that are on the agenda. Rob.
Thank you. Thank you, Brett, and thank you for members of the Manhattan Community Board 6 for having us tonight. If it's okay, I'm going to share a presentation.
Please.
Let me know if you can see the Blink NYC Link 5G overview on your screen.
Yep, it's up here.
Great. Okay. So I'm going to go through a few slides, talk, and then obviously Brett and myself and Beth will be then take questions that folks have. But I thought maybe a little bit of overview would be helpful. What is the purpose of Link NYC? It's to provide free and equitable access to connectivity, information, and wireless services. Whoops, sorry about that. And how do we do that? As Brett mentioned, we provide free public Wi-Fi throughout New York City. The Link NYC kiosks are the largest free public Wi-Fi network in the United States. We've had over 16 million people sign up for free Wi-Fi since the program started 10 years ago. And every week we have several 100,000 people throughout the city who are utilizing it. As Brett also mentioned, we have other services, 911 button, 311 access. We have a tablet on the kiosk that provides sort of direct access to a number of social services. We have a video relay service for deaf and hard of hearing. We use the advertising screens to generate revenue for the program, but we also, I'm sure as you've gone by them, provide time to the city for city-based announcements, to community boards, to nonprofits, to local businesses. The local businesses are, to the extent that they are small local businesses, often we're giving out free advertising to them. And we have a USB port for our charging of phones. Although this is not a focus of probably your community district, but many people understand that there is a digital divide in New York City. Although New York City is a very, very well-connected city, there are millions of New Yorkers who don't either have home or mobile broadband, and they rely on resources like the Link NYC kiosk network to access the internet. During the pandemic, we did a survey of our users, and approximately 30% of them indicated that the Link NYC kiosks were their only access to the internet. And while that is, you might say, well, look, we can understand that that's in some communities, maybe not in our communities, but one of the values of the Link NYC network is that it is a citywide network. So folks who might live into the outer boroughs and come into New York City for either work, school, visit a museum, or whatever, can rely on the network both where they live and when they travel. And that differentiates it from a lot of other free public Wi-Fi networks where people might not be able to know that it's going to be available wherever they might go. As Brett said, in 2001, we transitioned the program a little bit to expand the types of services available. And we introduced our new structure called the Link 5G. It is the original structure, the original kiosk that I suspect all of you are familiar with, is 9.5 feet in height. The Link 5G is 32 feet in height. That is the same height as the light poles here in New York City. As you can see, the white sections in the top are for the housing of telecommunications equipment. We can also actually house telecommunications equipment within the pole itself, the silver pole, so that we are maximizing our ability to use space on the city streets. The Link 5G kiosks have the ability to have ad screens similar to the existing kiosks, although we have made it modular so that in some instances, some of them will not have ad screens. To talk about a minute, to take a step back and talk about, okay, well, why are we doing this, and why is it important to be able to house cellular radios on structures such as the Link 5G? There's been an evolution of cellular phone infrastructure over the last 30 years. Initially, as cellular phones were rolled out in the 80s and early 90s, most cellular reception, particularly outside of big cities, was provided by big macro towers that look like the one you see on the left. These were towers with lots of high-powered radios that would cover broad distances, but it didn't have a lot of capacity. So early generations of phones, you could make phone calls, but that was about it. Second generation of phones, you could text. Third generations of phones, you could start to access the internet. And then fourth generation of phones, sort of 4G, you really got sort of serious ability to access the internet, download videos, and do a lot of the things that we take for granted on our phones. The photo on the right is a cellular installation of cellular antennas that exists on a rooftop. That is the primary method for the deployment of a cellular infrastructure here in New York City. You don't see a lot of the poles on the left, and I'm not sure if there are any, certainly not in the denser parts of the city. So the primary method through which the cellular carriers are providing service in New York City is through these rooftop antennas. What happened, though, call it about 10, 12 years ago, is the cellular carriers were finding that they were getting increasing demand for their services. And a way to ensure that you can meet existing and future demand is to add additional infrastructure, put more radios out there, and ensure that you can better utilize the spectrum you have to provide services. So approximately 10 or 12 years ago, some of the cellular carriers started putting radios on top of the light poles and utility poles here in New York City. Those installations, I think someone might have sent a copy of a 4G version of this over this afternoon, but those installations looked very much like the pole on the left in terms of the box in the middle. And then a stick antenna instead of that, a tubular cylindrical sphere at the top of the light pole. And there are thousands and thousands of those. Those are 4G installations on light poles in New York. Again, with the idea being that the cellular carriers are facing 20 to 30% growth in demand for data every year. And they're constantly looking for methods to improve their infrastructure. Several years ago, as 5G began to roll out, it was clear that those pole tops wouldn't work, or the cellular antennas, the stick antennas wouldn't work. So the cellular carriers and the city got together to design a new structure, which is what I have depicted here on the left. This is the 5G version of the street pole infrastructure, and you will see some of these in New York City. They are not nowhere near as many as you see the 4G version, but 2 or 3 years ago, cellular carriers, as they began to deploy 5G, began utilizing structures, or began using the light poles for this type of structure. Now, you might say, hey, this is a great idea. We should be utilizing existing structures rather than putting in new structures. And that is certainly true. You would always prefer to use an existing structure to putting in a new structure. But the light poles have certain disadvantages and complications associated with them. First of all, as you can see from the depiction of the light pole 5G on the left in the Link 5G, the light pole provides significantly less infrastructure or carrying capacity in terms of the amount of infrastructure. So, this particular version of the light pole probably has maybe a quarter of the capacity, meaning you would have to build 4 of these to get the same cellular infrastructure or number of radios as you do in the Link 5G. And none of these structures provide the free Wi-Fi. None of these structures provide free phone calling or tablet or any of the other amenities. Another disadvantage of the light poles is that light poles generally are not connected to a fiber optic network. So every time a cellular carrier wants to use a light pole, they essentially have to dig a trench in the street to connect that pole to fiber. That's an expensive endeavor, and it creates obviously disruption for people on the street. We also need to do that with the Link 5G on the right. But again, given the fact that we have such a much larger carrying capacity, you'd have to rip up the street 3 or 4 times, whereas we just would do it once to connect our Link 5G. So those are just some of the differences between the different structures. Our view is that the pole top is a great solution. We should use pole tops. We should use rooftops. But we also believe that if New York City wants to both continue to provide this digital safety net that we do through the Wi-Fi and other services we have in the Link network, but also ensure that New York City stays in the forefront of having the best cellular infrastructure in the US, that we need to invest in infrastructure that is such as the Link 5G. This slide goes through some of the things I just basically noted. The Link 5G is sort of purpose-built for telecommunications. Light poles were built to hold lights, while we've retrofitted them to hold cellular radios. They have, as I mentioned, certain disadvantages, and they don't provide, again, any of the digital safety net services that the Link 5G provides. There are a number of siting restrictions. So we're placing Link 5G is similar to when we were placing the 9.5-foot Link NYC kiosks. There are a large number of rules about where we can and cannot place kiosks that are enforced by the Office of Telecommunications and Innovation. There are some particular additional restrictions on the Link 5Gs. There's no advertising screens in residential zones. When I say residential zones, I mean not zones that people might happen to live in, but zones that are zoned residential by the Department of City Planning. You're only allowed to have one Link 5G on a block, and they cannot be within 200 feet of each other. And there's, in addition to getting the approval of the Office of Telecommunications and Innovation, there's a sort of a number of other city and state agencies we often need to get approvals from, including if we're adjacent to a park, we have to get approval of the Parks Department. If we were to go in a LPC, or Landmark Preservation Committee designated zone of New York City, we'd have to get approval of the LPC. And every single one of our sites, regardless of whether it's in a historic district or not, needs to be submitted for a historical review pursuant to the State Historical Preservation Office. So every single site goes through one of these historical reviews to determine whether the installation of the site would have an adverse impact on a historic district or site. I'm not going to read through all these, but this is a snippet of the laundry list of different restrictions that are imposed on where we can and cannot place the Link 5G. Many of them, most of them are made to ensure that we are not overly taxing the city sidewalks. The most important of which I think is the last one on here, that wherever we put a Link 5G, there needs to be at least 8 foot of clear path for people to walk down the street. But a lot of these other rules are made to ensure that we're minimizing the amount of clutter on the street. Now, some people might say to me that, hey, the existence of these kiosks is clutter on the street. The best way to not have clutter is to not have them. And obviously we are taking up space on the street. There's no doubt about that. But as I like to remind people that this is the successor to the franchise that had the pay telephones. And as part of the franchise, we, City Bridge, were required to remove the over 8,000 pay telephones that existed throughout New York City. And by removing them, we freed up a lot of space on the sidewalk, certainly more space than we're taking up with our new structure, if you're at least measuring in terms of space on the sidewalk. To get to the specific sites in Manhattan 6, we're here to talk about tonight. There's just 2. One on the northwest corner of 49th and 3rd Avenue, and the second on the northeast corner of 45th and 3rd Avenue. And this is just a list. What makes these two sites a little bit different is in most instances, when we're having these meetings, we're talking about kiosks that we're placing in the ground where nothing existed before. That is in a new installation of the Link 5G. In this case, we're talking about two sites at which there are the 9.5-foot Link NYC kiosk is already there. So we're talking essentially about a swap of the space for the existing Link 5G, I'm sorry, the existing Link NYC kiosk for the Link 5G. And the first site, as I mentioned, is 203 East 45th Street. It's in front of the Gourmet 45, which I believe is a deli, but it's fairly large setback at this part of the street. There is as I mentioned, a Link 1.0 there currently. The second site is at 798 3rd Avenue. This is the northwest corner of 49th and 3rd Avenue. We're in front of a large office building and a little bit offset from the street. And those are my slides and concludes my presentation. And with that, I'll stop sharing and hand it back to the committee for questions.
Thank you very much. See already a number of hands. So, and thank you very much for the presentation. That was extremely helpful. Don't think we had a lot of questions on when we originally were discussing this, so the context really helps. Thank you very much. Let's start with Jerry.
Thank you, Robert, for such a clear presentation. I'll try and be short. NYCHA, what percentage of the inhabitants have access to broadband via your concern?
The primary, I'll let Brett answer. The primary ability of people in NYCHA facilities to get access in their homes is the Big Apple Connect program. The Link NYC kiosk, I don't have it on the top of my head. We do have a stat about how many are within a certain distance of a NYCHA housing facility. But the reality is that the Link NYC kiosks are largely, and the existing kiosks are largely an outdoor system. And while some people can receive Wi-Fi or free Wi-Fi service indoors if they're quite close, that's not really the intended purpose. So, I don't think there's huge numbers of people who are currently living in NYCHA facilities who are utilizing the free Wi-Fi in their apartments. Now, it's an entirely separate question are they using it while they're on the streets? And, again, I'll refer back to what I mentioned earlier, which is we don't really know who our users are. We have very strict privacy policies, but we do believe that a significant portion of them are lower income New Yorkers.
Okay, and that anticipated the next thing, given that, because that was always our understanding. Is there an even greater aspiration to serve that community? So, for example, I've never seen, and it could just be me, I've never seen when I've interacted with those screens anything along the lines of resources that aren't deep down about the nearest shelter and when you need to check in and how to sign up for SNAP or ACA.
The tablet, you can argue about what's prominent or not, but I think the tablet does have some fairly prominent tiles which deal with a number of social services. The most used aspect of it, I think, is for food assistance. More than any other single usage of the tablet itself is people connecting to, I think it used to be Aunt Bertha. They've renamed the name of the organization, but it is the tablet, frankly, is overwhelmingly used from I would say, to access social services. We do have other things on there like, I don't know, Google Maps and things like that. The reality is a lot of people who have their own phones are doing that directly and not using the kiosk for it.
I would add really quickly, in addition to what Rob noted about the services offered on the touchscreen on the tablet, the city, when it agreed to the contract with CityBridge, negotiated to receive 25% of all the advertising that goes on the advertising screens, on the prominent screens, to provide information about city programs, city services. So all of our city agencies, from the Parks Department to the Police Department to the Fire Department, Sanitation, they're all using the Link kiosks in pretty great numbers to provide and push out information on individual programs. Can't sit here today and recall any specific to what you're alluding to in your question about digital equity programs. Fairly confident that's on there, but it does provide an opportunity to push that information out to the public.
All right, I want to allow other folks.
Just, I have seen on the digital ads, like food pantries and like the nearest access to food resources.
But as opposed to an ad, a usability prioritization, given that that is the main constituency.
Got it. Just putting that out, but I haven't seen that. Michael, go ahead.
Actually, I wanted to notice, like, I looked at 5G coverage in Manhattan. And I'm seeing that there's like a lot of 5G coverage all over the place. And I asked myself, why would we need more Link 5Gs if we're already well covered by 5Gs? And I agree it's nice to have a place to plug in your phone, but like, I just wanted to know why they're needed.
The answer is being well covered by 5G is I guess a relative term. A lot of people have various types of 5G access right now on their phone. Sometimes they'll get little things that pop up and say it's 5G. Sometimes it is, sometimes maybe not. The reality though is whatever your level of coverage is and your capacity to download is today, unless the cellular carriers and the city continue to invest in that infrastructure, I can guarantee you your experience is going to deteriorate because next year there's going to be more and more demand on what that network is. And it takes many years to build this type of infrastructure from the beginning to the end until you get from the day somebody tells us they want to put a Link 5G up to the time a cellular carrier will get their radios in their broadcasting, whether it's us, whether it's a pole top, or whether it's a rooftop. These are projects that take a considerable amount of time. And if everyone just waits around until coverage is really bad, well, then coverage is going to be really bad for a long time before they fix it. So, some people have differing views as to whether they think the coverage now is or isn't good. Obviously people have their own judgments about that. But I can certainly tell you that if we don't figure out ways to build more infrastructure, it's going to get worse.
Larry. Hi, Robert. I'd like to ask you about how this cellular coverage plan fits into the original honeycomb arrangement of antennas, especially the ones on the rooftops, which were, I guess, about 4 to 6 stories above the ground. The height of these poles, is that going to be in line of sight with those antennas?
Yeah, the locations for the 2 sites in particular that we're talking about tonight were basically selected by a cellular carrier to essentially enhance their existing network. A cellular carrier is going to have a network of all of the things I talked about before of rooftop installations, of in some cases pole top installations, and then in the future, presumably the Link 5G installations. And each of those is going to be part of the overall coverage map that they need. The reason why these locations were chosen is that, the cellular carrier in particular believes that it can either has an issue or will have an issue if it doesn't figure out a way to improve its coverage, which no doubt if you stand at the 2 locations we're proposing and try to make a phone call, your phone is going to work. I'm not saying it won't, but the carrier believes that unless they enhance their coverage at these locations, your phone will work less well at some point in the future. But it is meant to work in concert with those other radios that carrier might have.
Okay, so I think you basically agreed with the proposition that this fits into the neat honeycomb type of arrangement where there's a certain distance maintained for a handoff between cells, and you won't notice it on your device.
That is
it's-
correct, although I'm not saying that these two will hand off to one another. It maybe you'd be.
No, they might
hand off to something
a
else, or
building, to an adjacent building where they have an antenna on the side of the building.
yeah. I mean, in many instances, the small cells, both these and the ones on the pole tops, particularly if they're going to be used for higher frequency 5G services, what people might use them for is they can provide a lot more capacity. That is, more phone calls, more downloads of videos, more all of those things than in many cases the rooftops can. And the idea is, you want to have your service provide a particular area. So the carrier might say, hey, I need to preserve my rooftop installations to get inside of people's homes, right? That's an important thing for us. But right now, my rooftop installation is being strained because it's trying to serve too many people on the streets. So what the carrier might say is, hey, let's put these two out here, suck up a lot of traffic on the streets, and that will free up my macros to make sure that people in their homes have good coverage.
Understood. But I want to ask about looking forward, looking down the road, because in your materials, you talk about 6G, 7G, and using these to co-locate using these antennas to positions to co-locate the newer generations of equipment. What will be the role of these poles when we start seeing self-driving vehicles that need to have cellular service to be guided?
We have designed as much as we possibly can the Link 5G to be future-proof. And while it's called Link 5G, it should serve its purpose at 6G, 7G, 8G, because essentially what the structure we're putting out there is we're not, other than the Wi-Fi radio, we're not putting any radios or antennas in these things. They're essentially containers for either cellular carriers or, I don't know, in the future, someone might come up with a structure to, as you said, have self-driving cars, or maybe before even that, sort of zero vision assistance to make sure people don't get hit by cars crossing the crosswalk, right? And so people would put their radios or other types of transmission equipment in structures like this to be able to communicate with a self-driving car or a car that's connected to the internet in some way.
So my guess is that we may be seeing a demand for even more of these as we move into those future technologies.
There certainly will be, as I said, as there are more and more wireless technologies, that there is always going to be more and more demand for this type of infrastructure. And again, I think we're at some level trying to get ahead of the curve here, instead of engaging in building just those smaller tenant pole tops, which don't scale quite as well as a Link 5G. We're trying to put something out which has a lot of capacity and will obviate the need to dig up the street again 6 months later.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you. I will say, for when you're walking around Midtown, like at lunchtime, sometimes my phone calls do drop, so it is kind of already a problem. But my main question was, what is the capacity of these 5G towers underground? Are you working in tandem with what they're trying to do underground, like in between train stations? Or is this just an above ground problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah, this is just an above ground service.
I mean,
It won't. This doesn't help, for example, getting service on the 4, 5, and 6.
Sure. Is there any idea about combining them?
In theory, the fiber network that's being built for these, and the fiber network that is being built, for example, to provide service on the subway, there could be some overlap in utilizing the same fiber network to help support both networks. But ultimately, in the subway and the subway tunnels specifically, which is the next challenge that people face, is you've got to go into the subway, put radios and antennas in the subway. And I can tell you, I've seen videos of people like with little trains or men carrying fiber optic cables down the subway tunnels. Because that's ultimately where you need to place the infrastructure. So there may be some overlap, but it's not going to be that significant.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I see we have some from the public. Any other from the committee? No, okay, just taking a look here. Okay, yeah, first question from the public here, it is which specific carriers have been putting their antennas in these poles and have are there already contracts in place? I guess for the ones that are being proposed, I would assume.
The answer to the question is, at this point in time, we're not putting any, we're not deploying any new kiosks unless we have a commitment from a carrier ahead of time. So if these two sites do wind up getting built, they have a carrier behind them. We do have a contract with a cellular carrier, and we are on the cusp of having our second with a different cellular carrier. Unfortunately, the cellular carriers don't allow me to sort of disclose their individual names. But ultimately, these sites will go up. There will be cellular service being provided from them.
Thank you, Larry.
So you, I assume, are requiring that first carrier to make space available for every other cellular carrier on a shared basis, and there's no exclusivity.
There is certainly no exclusivity, and the space that a first carrier will take will be a fraction of the total space that is available, so that, as you said, we want to bring many carriers and many different types of services in the future. The first customer is never going to take all the space up.
Thank you. I'm going to read this verbatim from the Q&A. Will OTI be publicly sharing RF simulations in advance of the building of these towers? Will the towers be checked on a schedule? If so, how often? Will these reports be posted for the community? This is in regard to I guess the RF frequencies from the 5G antennas.
Yeah, so we don't have predictive or kind of pre-installation RF studies or surveys done. However, once a site is built, not just with the Wi-Fi, but once a cellular carrier has installed its equipment, we do require CityBridge and the wireless carrier themselves to comply with the FCC's rules around RF exposure. So there are rules established by the FCC that are around this type of stuff in terms of how safe, how the what type of power requirements are in place. And our franchise agreement even goes a step further in addition to their full compliance with those applicable provisions, that we can order an independent consultant to go out and test and make sure that those provisions are being adhered to. So as soon as those installations go up and the antennas get installed, we'll be monitoring those pretty regularly.
Thank you very much. And we've got a hand raised from Odette. We'll give you the floor, but ask you to be brief, please, because I'd like to move the agenda forward.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, so just to let you know, there are 16 community boards right now that have voted for moratoria or outright disapprovals of the 5G towers for a number of different reasons, including health and health-related issues, as well as many other issues, safety issues. And that's about 25% of New Yorkers. This system of 5G towers is really is to offer free Wi-Fi for the public on the street. It's not for in the homes. So how will that bridge the digital divide at home? It won't. So why is it needed? A lot of community boards are saying that there's no gap in their area. And you've heard here that, it's supposed to be for some future demand. Well, when the community boards have asked for that information, why is there a gap here? And why would you anticipate a gap here? The response has been that the telecom industry considers that proprietary information and doesn't need to share that. 5G is basically a machine-to-machine communication, and it's beamforming. 4G is sufficient. It goes for 9 miles of coverage. It provides tremendous coverage, as well as streaming videos and other things. Now, 5G is really, I would have to say, a dinky technology. I'm a technology transactional attorney.
I'm sorry, but did you have so you asked the question?
I wasn't asking a question. I was going to make a comment, and I had called your office. One of my people called your office today if I could make comments.
Well, you asked the one question, which was, what is the need for the increased demand? I think we already addressed that with possibly new technologies like self-driving cars, et cetera. Did you have another question? Again, I need to kind of move us forward.
Okay, well, is there any federal agency that is reviewing the safety of 5G?
Brett, do either of you guys want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation with Ms. Wilkins in the past, as you can imagine. So the federal government has the sole authority to regulate RF emissions in the United States. Cities are essentially preempted from setting its own criteria for what's considered safe to what's not. So we and our franchisees are all required to abide by those federal requirements. So to answer the question, the Federal Communications Commission is the sole authority.
And I have another question, a follow-up question. Has the FCC complied with the DC Circuit Court order of 2021 to examine its outdated 1996 limits in light of the 11,000 pages of scientific studies, which the court determined
I'm sorry, but I'm going to cut you off. I don't really think this is the appropriate forum to ask about FCC compliance. I don't think we have the purview over asking FCC, nor they on this meeting. So I'm going to cut you off there. Sorry, but yeah, I don't think that's pertinent here. Thanks for your comments. So let's move on. Let's discuss, I suppose, each individual site, or I suppose we could have a brief discussion on this as a whole and where we're feeling about this for each of the 3 sites. And we could discuss each site individually if there's a need to, but we basically have the option here of commenting to support, or passing a resolution to support the kiosks, to oppose the installation of the kiosks, or we have the option to make no comment. Yeah, I guess with the information we have, Larry.
I just want to confirm what I think I heard was that these locations are not brand new locations. There had been prior telecommunications facilities at each one of them.
Each of the locations currently has a 9.5-foot Link NYC kiosk at it. And that kiosk would be replaced with the proposed Link 5G.
So all we're doing is adding height.
Well, and changing the design.
Well, yeah, which we really, personally, I don't like the aesthetics of it, but I understand the utility of it.
Yeah, I share the same viewpoint.
And maybe with the Link 5G, we'll also be getting a bit more cell coverage.
Right, yes, definitely.
Yes.
And I wanted to know who is the current cell phone company that City Bridge contacted with? Is it AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile?
It sounds like that was answered before, that it wouldn't be exclusive, it'd be open to any of the carriers.
Any and all.
And they weren't able to disclose.
They weren't able to disclose who's currently.
Thank you.
So my viewpoint, which open to others' opinions, is to just not provide comment on these. I think City Bridge and OIT made a good case for why these are needed, and I think they benefit the community as a whole, which is my view.
So just a question, so why wouldn't you want to comment?
I don't know if we can pass a resolution in support. I think by providing no comment, we effectively sort of, it's sort of the same thing, but we can have a resolution in favor.
Thought on that,
I suppose I'm not opposed to a resolution in favor. B, I saw your hand there.
You hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make a resolution in favor. They're replacing existing structures. I see the future for the need of it. And I think we would hamper where we're going as a city if we didn't move ahead in this area. So my big thing is supporting it because they are replacing existing structures.
Just a question for the crew of Brett and Robert and so on. What are you looking for? Are you looking for a resolution, or if there's no resolution, does that make a difference?
Yeah, from OTI's perspective, and I love this conversation. You know, we come to the community boards and the electeds, council members, borough presidents, seeking any advice, input, constructive feedback on the proposed sites. Because again, a lot of these locations, these happen to be replacements for existing sites, but are picked in a relative vacuum, right? It's being picked to provide services for a carrier and provide Wi-Fi and all the other amenities to the public, and also comply with the siting criteria. You all know the community the best. You know if there's a particular concern, a community concern, a public safety concern, a sanitation concern in an area that we may not know about. So we seek your input in that regard. As relates to the meeting, it's really up to you guys. Expressing your support publicly in writing would be fantastic for, I think, overall program, given some of the skepticism and pushback we've received from other communities. Not every community is pushback, but many others. And we appreciate the sentiment that we're hearing today in support of the new technology. So up to you. We certainly, if there's any specific information that we should have in terms of picking new sites in addition to these two going forward, you can include that in a write-up or just either verbally or in writing. Expressing support is super helpful.
Larga.
And I'll second B's resolution.
Was that a motion, B, or
It was a
it was a
Suggestion.
It was a
suggestion?
long-winded motion.
Okay.
I'll second
okay.
it.
All right, so then, so it was a resolution to support these specific
Yes, the specific sites.
sites? Okay, I guess we will, move to a vote then on that resolution.
Unless you want to have a further discussion.
I think given that we have the,
Can I make one point?
yeah,
Sorry. They sent a link to the World Health Organization. I don't know if anybody clicked on the link, but if you go there, WHO says there's no study showing any ill health effects from 5G, according to World Health Organization, although they acknowledge there's not that many studies on it. So for what's that's where that's from the WHO.
And 5G is also the subject of a lot of conspiracy theories.
Yep. I believe procedurally, if we have the second resolution, we have to move forward with the vote. I think that's correct.
Right, yeah.
So given the second, let's move forward with the vote.
Okay, so with all that being said, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Michael Cohen.
Opposed.
B. Disman.
In favor.
Maya Donahue.
In favor.
Rob Friedman.
In favor.
Jason Fromowitz.
In favor.
Eric Goldberg.
In favor.
Marion Rowe.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
Gabe Terzo.
In favor.
And Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With 9 in favor, 1 opposed, this passes. And we need someone to write it.
Any volunteers?
I see Gabe. Reasons.
Slowly, I was waiting for someone else. I'll do it.
Okay, thank you, Gabe.
Wait, when's full board?
Wednesday.
Yeah. Well,
Too late.
I believe the deadline to comment on these specific locations was,
Okay, so, I think they gave us 60 days if I remember correctly, but let me do a quick search. Okay, so they gave us 90 days as of July the 28th when we first got this notice, so we need to provide feedback by October the 28th, which means it has to pass
Now,
forward.
it-
They're here to make comments.
It can be
Yeah,
a really, really simple resolution
it-
based on this presentation.
It also can be late, so I think, right, we would be sending an overall message about the link kiosks. If we say nothing, it presumably will move forward. And I think the bigger benefit of us writing this resolution is speaking about sort of kiosks in general and our general support for them. While we are specifically talking about these specific ones, it would be more of a.
I think we can take a different approach, which is an upgrade of existing facilities. Which is a lot simpler and a lot less controversial.
It makes it a lot more broad then.
So is he saying that we support that in general in the?
No, with regard to these
With regard to
specific
the- I see, I
locations,
see.
which, are old style, this is, an increase in capacity for those locations without commenting on the program as a whole.
Got it. So yeah, we guess we would have only.
I'll get it done.
Okay, yeah,
Solid B minus resolution.
that's all.
Yeah, and I think, B, that was what I just said is basically the thrust of, where you were coming from?
Exactly, it's the replacement of existing facilities.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, so yes, thank you, Gabe. Importantly, we do also have, the, agenda item number 5 is for the street pole attachment. So that was the, if you remember from the presentation, the older style of the kiosks. We want to loop that into the same resolution, because that one wouldn't be, an upgrade of an existing facility. This would be a little bit different. I think we looped that into the same resolution unless anybody wants to break that out separately or has strong feelings about that in opposition to that as opposed to the others.
I have a question on if we're going to go through this entire project of expanding everything into the better 5G Link NYC towers, why would we spend time, money, effort, resources only doing the smaller antenna toppers or the light bulb toppers?
So why do that? And
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it possible to
Can I-
just put a 5G Link tower there then?
yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
if I may, it's a really, really, really good question. So what I would say is, and I apologize, I don't have the information in front of me. I wasn't sure that was going to come up. That may in fact, and I can check right after this, be an upgrade of an existing 4G antenna. So it may be consistent with the general kind of upgrade assessment that you guys are considering. So if in fact there's an existing 4G antenna, that means that the wireless carrier that's being served there feels that they need 5G coverage. So they're going to put in a larger shroud and a larger antenna to support their equipment. Keep in mind, there's about 6,200, 6,300 antennas like that on light poles throughout the city. Those are going to be in place for a long, long time. And as Rob noted, it's really part of like the larger ecosystem. There isn't a one-stop, one size fits all solution for 5G. It's going to be the rooftops as like the foundation, the core. It's going to be the Link 5G. It's going to be the pole tops, probably forever, right? For as long as we're all here. So those are going to be in place for a long, long time. So it on its surface, I totally hear you. It wouldn't be, it'd make kind of sense to put in a Link 5G that has multiple space for multiple carriers. But keep in mind that the light pole, it's a light pole. So it's also serving, illuminating the sidewalk and the street while providing telecommunication services as well.
The upgrades that this carrier wants to make on the light pole is that it's the same exact box, they're just upgrading what's on the inside.
So it's a little bit larger. So there's two components to it. There's like a backpack size equipment shroud that's about 13, 14 feet up on the pole. That's getting a little beefier so that they can put in larger radio equipment. And at the very top of the pole is an antenna. And what was there likely before, and I do want to confirm, so assuming there is a 4G antenna there now, the 4G antenna has a very thin, what's called a whip antenna. It's about 2 inches in diameter. and it'd be increasing to a larger antenna at about 20 inches in diameter.
All right, thank you.
All right. So there obviously is a limit to the weight that you can add to the top of a current utility pole. These new facilities that we're that we approved the resolution for would contain space for vastly more equipment.
Absolutely. And whether it's a Link 5G or a pole top with 5G antenna, there's extensive structural analysis that were performed, and they require a very large foundation to obviously keep everything in safe order and make sure that the equipment can be operated safely for pedestrians and people living around them.
Okay.
So what is the tolerance of an existing utility pole which doesn't have a heavy concrete foundation?
So the pole in question is very likely, given the location, it's not a wooden utility pole. Those are obviously not found in Manhattan. Those are in the outer boroughs. Those actually have a higher.
I'm speaking about what we use when I spoke of utility pole. I'm talking about the kind of pole that would hold a traffic signal, a crossing signal for pedestrians, and a street light.
Yeah, those do have very substantial foundations, concrete foundations. So every installation that goes in on an existing pole the pole is replaced. They put in a brand new foundation, pour new concrete, and they even put in a fortified pole that has a thicker wall. It's called a 3-gauge pole to support the added weight that comes with the equipment that's being installed on it. So it has a higher wind tolerance and just overall is suitable for it.
Okay,
So
it's helpful to know that you're replacing the poles and you're not just sticking something new on top.
Of course not. Frankly, our colleagues at DOT would not let us do that. So they've been on top of this.
Based on what Brett said, I'm happy to put the other one in make an omnibus.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it's a motion.
Is there a second? All right. Okay, let's do vote to amend the resolution to include the pole attachment as well.
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor or opposed to the amendment. Michael Cohen,
In favor.
Pete Dismant,
In favor?
Maya Donahue,
In favor.
Rob Friedman,
In favor.
Jason Fromowitz.
In favor.
Eric Goldberg,
In favor.
Marion Rowe,
Favor.
Larry Shire,
In favor.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor.
Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
All right,
Okay, the amendment unanimously passes.
great. All right, thanks very much from OIT and everybody for the discussion on that, and from Link NYC, and from members of the public. Thanks very much. Let's move on then to the next item on the agenda, which is presentation from Department of Design and Construction on a planned water main construction project for Irving Place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Irving Place between East 16th and East 18th. Yes.
Just one other thing, there's also a 4G street pole item, I don't know.
Oh, shoot, I am.
Another-
My mistake,
Yeah.
my mistake. Thank you, Brenda.
That's okay, that's what I wanted.
Thank you. Before we move on, yes, okay, yes, so then there's another question on the 4G street pole. I suppose we should have held it off on, do we want to include that as well, the same resolution?
Omnibus means omnibus.
Yeah.
Fits.
Yeah, I think we should.
Put the water main in there too.
Does anybody object to that being included? I think we could get away with doing that without voting again. Anybody object to that being included in the resolution? All right, seeing no objection, let's move on to DDC on Irving Place between 16th and 18th Street. I will give, would like the floor from DDC to the floor.
Hi, how are you? I want to introduce myself. Good evening. I am Saida Novoa Torres. I'm the construction community liaison for project MBD 645. I sent you my presentation. Should I share the screen or?
Yeah, I think you can share your screen. If you have, we have the presentation in case you have any issue sharing.
Okay, let me double check because my computer has been acting up. Can you see? Okay, here, can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, good. Perfect. This project, it's project MED 645, is the installation of distribution water main various locations in the borough of Manhattan. In this particular case, it's on East 16. It's between East 16 to East 18th Street on Irving Place. We share that location with you guys, Community Board 6 and Community Board 5. I've spoken with Miss Marissa Mack, and she knows about this. We have other locations on that particular community board, but you guys we are brand new to you, or myself, I'm brand new to you. Okay, so this is our agenda. Pretty much we're going to talk about the project, the construction overview, the water shutdowns, the water shutdown advisories. We're going to show some samples of the construction bulletin and how they look, and also how we're going to send our quarterly newsletter. We're going to show pictures of samples of storage areas, public spaces, and the community outreach. So this is the location. Our project MED 645 is a 6-location project. Your location, Irving Place, is our 4th location. We are here to change the 12-inch water main, as you can see on the green line. The pipe is dated 1909, so it needs to be changed because the city takes a proactive action to prevent any water pipes bursting. So we're changing all of that. It's on the corner of East 16 all the way to East 18 on Irving Place. As you can see here on my mouse, these are the valves, and those are the pipes, and the age of the pipe, as you can see right there. So it's over 100 years old, and we need to change it. How this project will benefit the community? Well, basically, besides giving a brand new pipe, the roadways will be safer and more reliable because we will obviously pave and reconstruct the street once we are done. Also, the installation of a new water main will ensure a safe and dependable water supply that can meet the community's needs. And also, it will improve the water quality in the area. Now, here are pictures of water mains. So this is from whatever other locations. The pipe was also dated from the early 1900s, and this is the condition of the pipe. So what we are trying to do, as you can see, is we need to change it. So these are the conditions of the pipes that we usually take out. Now, this project, we're still in the early stages of the project, meaning we anticipated to start in the fall of 2024. We're still getting our permits together, and I'm doing all the outreach, but we wanted to meet with you guys so we can meet and you can see what are we going to do. The estimated completion of this project is winter 2025, and then we'll always update the community and the community board in each phase of the project. Our contractor is Judd Lau, and they are working in obtaining construction permits so we can continue. Me being the CCL, I continue doing outreach and meeting everybody in the community and explaining what the type of project type of construction that we're about to do. The anticipated impacts. The street parking will be interrupted during the duration of the project. There will be water service test interruptions because we need to find out the condition of the valves. We have no idea what we're going to encounter. So we need to do test interruptions. There will also, after we find out, there will be service interruptions to remove and install the water main. which is a 12-inch water main, by the way. I forgot to mention that. There will be some test pits activities to find out the location of the water main and possible utility interferences. We won't find out the conditions of the water pipe unless we do test pits. Outdoor dining will need to be removed when construction starts. That's as per NYC DOT, but we will definitely give ample time to the restaurants to remove their structures. And we'll always inform the stakeholders and businesses before we do any of these operations. Once we are established when we're going to have the water service interruptions, this is what we do. I will inform the community that there will be no water service. The city gives 72 hours, 72 hours and a 24-hour advisory, and to ensure that the stakeholders have ample time to prepare. I will distribute, even though I will send an email, but I will go to the site and distribute the advisory so everybody will be informed that this measure is being taken. The contractor will distribute a water shut-off notice with the contact information from the resident engineer and myself. My resident engineer, his name is Ernest Valcourt. He's also on the call. Once the water service are back, I will send a water restoration email to all the stakeholders and business affected. Now, these are the samples of notices. As you can see in this advisory, I'm definitely letting them know what it is: the water shutdown, the date, the time, and from what time it starts until what time it ends. Usually the water shutdowns, either it could be a regular shutdown or a test shutdown. It happens overnight. This measure was taken so we can have a less impact on the community. We know the construction, it could be pretty invasive and a bit noisy, so it's done overnight usually. We give the specific location, again, the time and how long does it take, and my contact information need be any questions of the sort. Now, on this pamphlet, which is also distributed with the water shutdown advisory, it gives you, pretty much explains to you what to do once a water shutdown happens, because we will shut down from our end, but the building or the residents needs to also shut down their valves. So DDC gives this communication to inform the person responsible for that of how to do it. Again, if they have a question, my information is down here. Any questions so far? I'm not going too fast. No? Okay.
I think let's keep going. I think all the
Okay, definitely. Now, this is a sample of the water shut-off notice. This is distributed 24 hours before the water shutdown happens. And here, you'll see the date when the water shut-off is going to happen, the estimated time, the project, and this is the field office number. Here is the name and the telephone number from the resident engineer and myself. So once there's a water shut-off that we are doing, our line of communications are always open in case of an emergency or any other questions. So the resident engineer and myself are always on call. So if anything happens. Now, on the water shut-off notice, there are in many languages. I think there are 10 languages here in case people need translations, which we do provide.
Sid, I don't think we need to go into the details of each
Of course.
Flyer. Just covering that, those will be distributed, I think is fine.
Yes, this is actually quite important. This is the weekly construction bulletin, which I do send every weekend, every Friday, to inform the community the construction for the following week. So you'll see the date, the location, and what exactly we're doing. This is the newsletter distributed every quarter. Again, with the information of what we did the last quarter and what we're going to do the following quarter. Now, this is the storage area. This is just a sample, and this is determined by DOT, and they will let us know the location and the size. This is pretty much how it looks. And again, the impacts of traffic and parking, and this is all determined by NYC DOT. And I will send an advisory informing where and how it's going to happen. In your location, there are a couple of trees that I've seen. We will protect the trees as per Parks Department, and those are the tree guards. And this is my information. My email, phone number, and my cell number, which I'm always reachable. So, okay. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Definitely have some questions here.
Sure, just a quick one. Thank you for the presentation. I know that there's a school right there, the Washington Irving Complex that's on that block.
Yes.
I didn't know
Yes.
if there's any special circumstances that you'll take into account during that construction to accommodate school pickup, exit, entry.
Yes.
Noise during school hours, things like that.
Yeah, our project is actually very hands-on, and the school has been actually our most important detail on this project, because that particular school houses 7 different schools. I already reached out with the super, and I have the principals, 7 principals' names. And we'll start working with DOT because of faculty parking. I reached out to Colleen Chardagoon, and she's going to help me relocate the parking. However, right now, as I said before, we're in the beginning of this project. We're still waiting for permits. So once we get the permits, our next step is to relocate the faculty, and also to what we want to meet is with the principals of the schools, because that particular school, when I spoke to the super, he told me there's only one entrance, which is the main entrance on Irving Place for the kids to drop off and drop ons for the buses. But there are other exits and entrances from that school. So that's something that we need to discuss when we get the details of the MPTs, where we're gonna storage our equipment, we need to talk about that. So I've been in close contact with the super at the school, because it's actually great priority for us.
Great, and it was just to underscore, the schools certainly know better than I do, but just to be aware of timing and to see if there's flexibility you could build in based on the school's need.
Yes, we've spoken about that, but that it's something that we just have to wait for permits of how we're going to deal moving forward.
Right.
Like a comment and a question. The comment is, we'll definitely be planning to run information about this upcoming project in an upcoming newsletter. And we can definitely run our plan text by you all, just to make sure that what you want us to spread the word on is like matches up with our own messaging. So just want my one question is, I know you all will be doing test pit activities for utility interferences. When will that be happening in relation to the project timeline, out of curiosity?
Right now, I do not have that particular information because we're still waiting for certain permits to come through. We are planning to do some water tests to see how the valves work. And that is something that we are planning to do not this Friday, the following Friday, but we're still working on that. We will definitely inform the community 72 hours, and I will reach out to you guys as well, so you will know. But right now it's been busy a couple of weeks because we need to put this project together. But I will definitely let you know. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious, it's just something I'm curious about, because there's another water main project in our district that is experiencing significant delays precisely because of utility interferences, so. Yeah, just something I was curious about, but that's it for me.
Let's go to B.
So I just wanted to ask, when, the area that you're working, are there any fire hydrants there that you have to consider? Or if so, what's the alternative?
Fire hydrants, you mean?
Yep.
The fire hydrants, I would not have that information right now. I don't know if we're gonna change it or not, that we have to see what is our procedure. I do not have that information, but I will definitely make it available once I obtain it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How wide is the service impact? Is it just the people on Irving Place, or how many people does this main service?
Oh, it depends on the buildings where they receive their water. But mainly as of today, it's only the persons that live on East 16 to East 18 on Irving Place.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I want to ask, so the water main replacement or water main repairs, are they gonna affect other buildings near Irving Place or other places nearby that, or just gonna affect the school? And I wanted to know, like, how long is the repairs expected to last?
The shut offs or the repairs, the whole project?
The shut off.
Oh, the shut-offs usually they're overnight and they usually are 7 hours.
And it sounds like they would be affecting some of the neighboring streets, right?
Yes, and if they do affect, let's say, going on the in-between streets, if that does happen, I will inform the buildings that it will affect them. The buildings will not be without information if they don't have water or anything. I will let them know.
Thank you. Good.
Hi, Seda. I don't
Hi, how are
expect you to have this answer, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Do you know what percentage of the city still has these old pipes?
Oh, I cannot, you cannot put me under oath, but there's a few. I do not have the percentage. No, I do not. But
yeah, I was wondering if it was like 20 to 30 or like 70 to 80.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I really don't know. And this is something that I, before I came in working for DDC, I never knew that these things do exist. I really didn't know, but I don't have that information.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You're welcome.
You showed us some very old pipes, but the buildings that are adjacent to Irving Place are far older. Many of them are historic structures and even landmarked. Places like Pete's Tavern and Washington Irving's house, which is across the street from the high school.
Yes.
Are you going to be taking special precautions with regard to vibration and monitoring vibration in these individual structures, as is sometimes done in terms of major construction projects, so as to be on the alert of wall cracking, if you're jackhammering and the like, stop?
Yeah, oh, of course. We do have a noise mitigation.
I'm not speaking about noise. I'm concerned about vibration.
The vibration.
Hi, yes, this is Marlene Nunez from DDC Outreach. And yes, we do have a vibration monitoring program on every project. And there will be monitors throughout all the locations where the project is working to make sure that there are no impacts to the buildings.
Yeah, well, what I'm asking you to do is to reach out to some of these special properties that are very sensitive, very historic, and which are also very delicate.
I will have I will make a point to do that, definitely.
Yes, we'll definitely make a note of that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Sure.
Thank you very much for letting us know.
A quick follow-up. Are you using polymers? I mean, if the life expectancy shelf life was X, what are you doing now as far as like reimagining materials that have a modular life use?
How do you mean? I don't understand the question. What do you
In
mean?
terms of the pipe, what's in the pipe?
Well, apart from what are the materials you're working with, there's every possibility these days to create things where you're swapping things out. So you're not having to gut something and so forth. So I'm wondering what the materials piece of this, how sophisticated is that?
Well, since we are dealing with the hand carry excavations, we have to do this by hand because once we start our work, we don't know. We know that the pipe is there. We don't know what's on top of the water pipe. So everything is done very carefully because we don't want to damage anything. And the crew that we are utilizing, they're very knowledgeable of how to do this, but this is done by hand. We cannot use heavy equipment at all. We might use saw cuts just to cut the asphalt and certain parts of the concrete, but the rest is done by hand. Does that answer your question?
Not really. I'm wondering what the materials consist of, but it may be just for another discussion.
I mean, is this an iron pipe? You're gonna replace it with another iron pipe?
Yes.
Sure, we can get back to you guys on that information.
Fair.
What our understanding is that they're meant to last many years, so that replacements won't be necessary for anywhere from 25 to 30 years from now. So
Well, these pipes lasted 100.
Yeah.
Well, we can create organic structures.
Yeah, we can follow up on potential future
sure,
discussion.
we'll get back to you guys on that.
I have one question, on the outdoor dining structures, there's a number on that stretch of Irving
Yes.
Place. Have the businesses already been notified? I'm concerned that as we're transitioning to the new outdoor dining program, that they should be aware of this as soon as possible.
Yes, I have reached out to Casa Mono and L'Americana, and right next to it.
Pete's Tavern.
Yes, we haven't started there because we was starting from East 16th Street, but they will find out. They will definitely let them know. But yes, some of them, the restaurants they do know, I have communicated and I have their information.
Thank you.
Of course.
Also friend of a farmer.
Yes, and the coffee shop over there.
Gelato place at the corner.
They don't do any outdoor dining.
Oh, yeah.
What, 71 Irving?
Yeah.
71 Irving?
Standing, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we could have a potential future discussion on how we can mitigate the impact on these businesses on the street with this work going on and.
Well,
the outdoor dining, the loss of outdoor dining.
I think the key thing is not to store equipment where these outfits want to have daytime and early evening dining. This work goes on from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So there may not be a lot of conflict. And
It sounds like they'll have to
quiet
remove-
during the day.
It sounds like they'll have to remove their outdoor dining infrastructure for the start of for the
Well, I
duration
don't
of the
know.
project.
I don't know.
Right.
That's what they have to advise, whether they're gonna need that area.
Once we receive the permits from DOT and especially to where to store our materials, we will definitely let you know. But usually we'll work in the morning from 7 to 3. But this is not set in stone. We're still waiting the times that DOT will provide us. But the water shutdowns are done overnight.
How does the water shutdowns work at night if you're working during the day?
Oh, we will have the crew to come in and do it. DEP comes in and shuts off the valve, and we start working there.
But so
But,
some
we-
during the
I'm
night.
sorry.
So
Over
some
the-
some
yeah.
might work then.
So you're, what I wasn't clear about before, what I was just hearing is, there will be work going on almost around the clock. But the water shutoffs will be only at night.
No, we will not work around the clock. We will work Monday to Friday. But once we're ready to do water shut off, that'll be the day that we will work overnight. But the water shutdowns don't happen all the time because we have to dig it up and expose the pipe. And that's when we will be ready to do it.
But what I'm asking is the excavation to get to the pipes, what hours are you doing that work?
Oh, in the morning.
That's all dependent on the DOT permits. Once
Yes.
those are provided, then we will know exactly what the hours of work will be and we'll communicate that to the community board.
And on a project of this scope, this size, until from the start until the repaving and striping of the road is complete, can you provide an estimate of how long that project ought to take on
So
average?
as of right now, they will be doing, as Sada mentioned, test shutdowns to test the valves. After that, there'll be test pits to see where the underground utilities are, but we don't expect actual water main replacement work to start until after the new year, possibly January. And at that point, we would be able to give you a better rough estimate as to how long the entirety of the project will take.
But on a similar kind of a situation, and you have experience, can you provide a range of how long after that you start going in and getting the pipe out until you have the street surface
Sure,
replaced?
yes. So before they can actually do the water main replacement work, they will have to do any utility relocation work. So they won't be able to do the water main replacement until the utilities are relocated, and that's the part that may take a little bit longer. I'm not sure I can give you a exact number, but it could take anywhere from 6 months or so to work on a block. So I could imagine more than that for these 2 blocks. But again, it's all dependent on the underground utilities that they find once they do test pits.
So a way to calculate it is 6 months for the first block, and the next 6 months, and if there's a third block, 18 months, right?
That would be a rough estimate
Yes.
of what we're looking at.
Thank you.
All right, you guys aren't looking for a resolution or anything from us on this, I assume. This is just as making us aware.
Yes, that's right. We just
Yes.
wanted to come to the community board. This is the first time this project is working within this community board. We do have other TDC projects in the area. So we are familiar with Brendan, and our CCO Sada will be attending the DSC meetings and providing you with updates as this project moves along.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for answering all of our questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 8, request change to curbside regulations on the north side of East 47th Street between a city bike station and Second Avenue to accommodate curbside deliveries for trucks. Do we have a presenter?
Yes, we do. Hello, or Karen?
Yes. Can everyone hear me? I am just trying to bring up my screen over here.
Sure.
And yeah. Just give me a second. Let me figure out this. How do we share screens here? Okay. All right. So, please. Or someone else. I was just trying to share my screen.
Yeah, I just changed the settings so that hosts and panelists can start sharing when someone else is sharing. So you should be able to.
Can I? Okay. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Share. So good evening, everyone. My name is Tabor Neme. I am a consultant with Sam Schwartz Engineering. I'm joined today with my client, Jimmy Nicholson, who is the Executive Vice President of Rock Hill Management, as well as Carolina Ramos, the General Manager for Rock Hill Management. So our request today, we would like to request for a change in the curbside regulations along East 47th Street between 2nd Avenue and the City Bike Rack. And currently, East 42nd Street is a one-way street westbound, and it measures about 30 feet from curb to curb, and with one travel lane in the westbound direction. So for the most part, the curbs are used for various reasons, for either pickup drop-offs. There's some parking, there's a bike, there's a city bike dock over there. And this existing section, the existing section where my client is requesting, it's literally at the northwest corner of East 42nd Street and 2nd Avenue to convert this existing space about approximately 90 feet from a no standing zone, which is currently signed, to a truck loading zone. So the reason for my client's request for this curbside regulation change is to make room for a truck loading zone needed for a prospective client who that will be coming into 885 2nd Avenue.
Grocery store, right?
So this location will provide direct access for them to do their loading, unloading, and unloading activities. And we had sent out public notices about 3 weeks ago to every building along East 42nd Street between 2nd Avenue and 3rd Avenue. And we did not receive any consents so far. So we would like the community board we would like to seek a resolution from the community board regarding this proposed request. So here is what we are proposing for a change in curbside regulation. And the previous image I was sharing with you is the existing condition right now. I'm open to any questions if there is.
Michael, go ahead.
I would like to ask, so your proposed truck loading zone is in a space with a fire hydrant. And I was wondering, like, would it be possible for you to put a different truck loading zone on like the other side of the street, or at another space near your location, away from the space dedicated for a fire engine, like to put it like before a bus stop sign, if there is one on that side of the street, on 2nd Avenue?
So if I understand the question correctly, the concern here is the fire hydrant, which we did notice. To locate, directly on this side is impossible because there's an entrance to a parking garage. On this side of the street, we understand that there are changes which are coming on 2nd Avenue to move this bus lane. But there's a diplomatic parking over here, which we cannot, remove. And the primary reason why it would benefit my client to have at least a drop-off and pickup zone over here. This entire thing is approximately 90 feet. And unfortunately, we did not measure the clearance from the fire hydrant, although we identified it, but this is probably like, if I eyeball it, probably 15 feet from this. The primary reason why we were trying to get this location is just for them to allow for access directly from the curbside to the store, to the location where the store will be located.
And I just wanted to point out, I pulled up the street view of the area in question. There we go.
So with the regard to the fire hydrant, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the regulations are that you cannot stand within 15 feet on either side of the fire hydrant. Is that generally agreed to?
I don't know.
Which would leave you 60 feet out of the 90 feet in order to do your things with your trucks. So you're aware of that, right?
All right.
And maybe you can clarify what was wrong with the coming parking lane adjacent to your building on Second Avenue. When the bus lane is moved.
So I think the issue, which was the challenge, which the prospective tenant is facing, is they do perform a lot of delivery activities throughout the day, and the current curbside along Second Avenue right now, with the time restrictions over there, and without knowing what the proposed time restrictions would be, it was.
Well, there wouldn't be any time restrictions once the bus lane is moved away from the curb.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, right where the back hole is standing, just right at that corner, there's a diplomatic parking right there. So DOT will not entertain any sort of moving or relocating that parking zone.
Well, I'm sorry, where is this diplomatic parking?
It's literally, if you pan down to, if I was sharing my screen, if you go down Second Avenue, so if you turn around, yep, right there, there's a diplomat, right to the traffic signal pole.
So I think the office place here.
Okay. So what was confusing, I think, had to do with, all right, so we're looking at the sign currently, right? That's the way it is now?
That's your diplomat sign, yeah, right here.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Now you've cleared it up. And bicycles, bicycle safety, how would that be impacted, if at all?
Well, we did a site visit. We do not believe that there will be any impacts to bicycles, because first of all, this is this lane, or this travel lane, or this street is taking traffic away from Second Avenue, and currently there are still, as you can see from Google Earth, although trucks are prohibited from parking from this location right now, they do park there and they still do loading and unloading activities. So we do not believe that, or we do not find any reasons to believe there will be any issues in terms of cycling.
Can you tell us anything more about the client? What types of, how they're going to be serving the community? That just might be helpful to understand the benefit that they might be providing.
Yeah, Tabit, I'd be happy to speak to that. So good evening. I'm Jamie Nicholson. I'm with Rock Hill Management. We are an affiliate of the owner of the property. We acquired the property in January of 2019. I have been working on the building since we bought it, and even for quite a while leading up to it. And the space here on the ground floor, which is the space that this grocery store is going to take, is about 8,000 square feet. It's previously been used as restaurant space, and it was a built out but vacant restaurant when we bought the building. And our understanding from the folks that sold us the building is that restaurant space had been vacant for over 5 years. And this space, the ground floor space, has been vacant here for us since the entire term of our ownership. The tenant that we've identified and we're in active lease negotiations right now, and because the lease isn't signed, they've requested we do not disclose who they are specifically, but they are going to bring an 8,000 square foot grocery store and market to this location. So We view it as certainly a great amenity for our office tenants who will have a place to buy items for lunch or on their way home, from work. But certainly this neighborhood has a significant residential population, and would, I think, be served quite well by having another grocery option, within walking distance of their apartments.
I'm curious why it's currently designated no standing. That's not an easy designation to obtain. So what were they trying to protect with that?
So I did reach out to DOT, and I can tell, their response was that sign has been there since 1985. They did not identify any issues, but at the same time, they did not oppose our proposal as well. So that's, usually they'll tell you there was a reason why it's dedicated and marked like that, but I did not receive, and they did not provide any reason.
Perfect, thanks. Any other questions?
Just thinking, about the fire hydrant, and on the other side, thinking about daylighting. We discussed a lot about daylighting of intersections, and this is, I assume, going to take away daylighting. I guess the question is, how big do you anticipate the trucks coming, and can they get away with like 40 feet of space if we want to keep the intersection daylighted?
So good question. We anticipate the tenant anticipate using up to a maximum size truck of a WB50, which, if you want to, in perspective, that'll be about 55 feet. Now, we just did a quick math there to show that, if we were to stay away 15 feet from the fire hydrant and estimating that 30 feet would be reserved for the fire hydrant, there should be at least enough speed, maybe a 5 feet clearance from the edge of the crosswalk. So secondly, the benefit of this, what makes this site even much more appealing is, as I mentioned earlier, traffic travels away from 2nd Avenue. So, safety is a subjective topic, but it would have been more concerned if it was on the other side where you're approaching 2nd Avenue. So that would have been a much more bigger concern from a daylight standpoint.
Yeah. We also understand that while they do use up to a WB50, the variety of their deliveries will come in vans and smaller box trucks, whether it's baked goods or, I'm not a grocer, so I don't know what else they deliver and how, but there'll be a variety of vehicles. It won't all be WB50s.
Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else? And if not, does anyone have a motion? They are looking for a resolution to support this if we feel so compelled.
I'd like to make a motion to write a resolution in support of the third request.
Do we have a second?
Can I put a second with adding respecting the fire hydrant and respecting some kind of daylighting? Would that mash up your
Well, you're right in this one. So, I think accepting the fire hydrant regulations, I assume, was sort of a given. I don't think we need to make that explicit. And
Well, it would just be a comment in the whereas, if anything.
yeah, and I think so. I am a grocer. And I'm guessing with 8,000 square feet, you probably get one 50-foot truck a day, which would take approximately 30 to 40 minutes to unload, with, one piece of heavy equipment. So the daylighting impacts, depending on when the truck came, are minimal, really. And that's even assuming they need the entirety of the length to the crosswalk. I'm extremely pro daylighting.
Yeah, no. Worthy of discussion, but no, that's fine. I dropped the request.
You're still seconding it, right?
I'm seconding it and dropping the request.
CB's hand for any discussion.
Yeah, so I guess I'm confused with the dropping of it because of the fire regulations. So it really is not the amount that they're requesting. We're subtracting for the fire regulation. Am I correct?
Yes.
So it's not exactly their request, it's a modification of their request.
That would be the 60 feet.
That's right.
Does
Yeah,
that
it
mean,
would be 60 feet.
does that meet the needs, for the request?
If I may respond to it, I mean, generally, I mean, the city laws and the fire hydrant code, I mean, it's generally understood that you do not park in front of the fire hydrant, and we'll do everything to make sure that doesn't happen. With 60 feet would work. It will work, you know, but I think when DOT goes out there, it's not like they'll probably make a specific zone to say it's fire hydrant, and then this other zone is not, you know, but 60 feet would work for us as well. But I just wanted to clarify that it's normally understood that at the fire hydrants, no parking within 15 feet anyway.
Right, so they wouldn't, unless we asked for it, there wouldn't be separate signage related to the fire hydrant. There would just be from the city bike dock,
Correct.
So, yeah, unless we're asking for something specific, they would be getting the 90.
But why
feet.
would they be getting the 90 if it doesn't meet the regulation? I mean,
And the signage could be confusing for people who might park in front of the,
But you can't with the fire hydrant.
the
then,
fire
you go to
hydrant.
the city bike dock.
No, what I'm saying is that when we're suggesting approximately 60 feet, that the sign be east from the fire hydrant and not be adjacent to the city bike.
So then it would just, there would be.
There
two
would be
signs
no
that say no
standing. There would
I see.
continue to be no standing in front of the fire hydrant. This new zone would run from 15 feet east of the fire hydrant. I think we should word it that way, all the way up to the crosswalk.
I mean, it seems fine, the no standing already exists, so we're just modifying this part of what already there.
So then. Okay, so right now we have a resolution for giving them the 90 feet that they're asking for. If we want to modify that to say,
I move, modify it.
okay, so that's an amendment,
But we didn't vote on the original one anyway, so this is. Any
no one
objections?
seconded the original one.
no, we did have a second on the original one.
It's an
All right, but we
amendment.
need to modify.
Yeah, so it is an amendment.
A move to.
Amendment to the-
Amend it to limit the zone from the crosswalk west to a point 15 feet from the fire hydrant.
Do we know that fire hydrant location?
Doesn't matter. We're just.
No, but I mean, is that gonna give them their 60 feet?
They represented that it was 90 feet. Now, I'm assuming they measured it correctly, but we could word our resolution that we would approve of a loading zone approximately 60 feet from a point at the cross, curbside at the crosswalk west to a point 15 feet from the short of the park, the fire plug.
Just a question for Talbot. How far away from the crosswalk is the fire hydrant? Can you just confirm that?
He's saying 60 feet.
No.
I'm sorry,
I never heard the number.
No, 75 feet, that would be.
Is that true, Talbot? It's 75 feet from the crosswalk, the fire hydrant?
I was trying to just confirm that virtually, you know, we can definitely do a confirmation. We can definitely confirm that on site. I was trying to look at it on Google Street View, but if you give me a minute, I'll just give you a quick estimate. And this would not be as accurate as it should be, but so the fire hydrant is approximately 60 feet from the edge of the so we're looking at about 62 feet here from the edge of the crosswalk.
Then take away another 15 feet.
All right, so you're going down to
45
feet.
feet.
45 feet.
Might not work.
Let's give me a second.
There's two fire hydrants, is that right?
Looks like
No, sorry.
Here's the
Right,
fire hydrant.
Oh, the ones on Second Avenue is fire hydrant A.
And here's the city bike docking station for reference.
So,
14A, yeah.
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 and I'm trying to pull up a clearer map, if you could just bear with me, please.
That's it. So, right,
That's
where between,
the fire hydrant and the end of the no standing zone. But that's fire hydrant B, right?
This,
No, there's only one fire hydrant.
yeah, just
Well,
the,
the fire in the, on the, okay, fire hydrant B in the, map, mass.
Yeah.
It looks like the numbers are not accurate.
could
is there a more recent photo?
we potentially, I don't mean to draw this out, but it sounds like there's some questions on the measurements. Could we table this until we have full understanding of the measurements of the hydrant and the space and revisit this in our November meeting? I assume, it sounds like there's not a ton of urgency on the part of you guys. Yeah, please go ahead.
So if I can share my screen right now, I mean, the fire hydrant from the, it's approximately 70 feet from the edge of the crosswalk. So I have a better map here, which I've just done a quick, and we did go on site to measure that. We did measure the 90 feet. We did not measure from the height from the fire hydrant. That was an oversight. But we did measure the approximately 90 feet was measured on site.
Tabitha, did you say you were sharing, you have something to share? We're not
Okay.
finished.
Oh, sorry. Sure. So this is the site right here, and the fire hydrant is approximately here at this location. And I did just a quick line. It's about 69.62, so approximately 70 feet. And this is the start of the bike.
Right, so if the loading zone were just 15 feet short of the hydrant, that would give you about 60 feet, or 55 feet is.
It'll give us about 55 feet, which it should work again. We use variety of, the client is anticipated to use a variety of vehicles. There might be that one occasion once a day where a WB-50 truck will come in. So that should be it.
Okay. All right, so Larry, your amendment is that.
Relating to a 55-foot loading zone.
Okay, any other comments, discussion on that amendment? Okay, any other comments in general for this resolution with the amendment? Okay, so let's move to vote if the resolution as amended.
Second.
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Michael Cohen.
In favor.
B. Desmond.
In favor.
Maya Donahue.
In favor.
Barack Friedman.
In favor.
Jason Fromwich.
In favor.
Eric Goldberg.
In favor.
Marion Rowe.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor?
Gabe Terzo.
In favor.
And Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With all 10 committee members in favor, this passes. We need a writer and we need to clarify whether this will be at full board on Wednesday or next month.
I think we're good to next month, per the bylaw, so, we would bring it back to committee here and then. Yeah, vote on it again and then bring it to the full board for.
Do we need to have another vote?
Think so? I'm actually not entirely sure.
Because this has been noticed.
Brendan, are you clear on that?
So unless there's a time sensitivity matter to it, a resolution needs to be written and presented to the committee at least 3 days in advance.
So could we have even, so technically we wouldn't have even voted on the resolution now in compliance with the bylaws?
I mean, right now, like unless you do it as time sensitive,
Right, okay.
then no.
So we'll have to re-vote on it.
No, you don't have to re-vote on it. I don't know where we're coming up with it. We passed it, we're presenting it. We're not gonna present it 3 days ahead of time, so you're presenting it at the next board meeting. Brendan, where do you get a re-vote from?
Because we have to, because it's not presented in writing yet, but I appreciate you're probably the person to ask on this.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out where Brendan thinks it has to be re-voted on.
Well, in terms of presenting the written resolution to committee.
Given the requirement that a written resolution has to be presented to the committee with it before.
It has to be presented to the board no later than 3 days before the board meeting.
The committee, I believe, right?
No, the board.
Is that only pertains to full board, not to the committee?
I believe
it up.
that it pertains to committee, but I'm looking at the bylaws right now.
Yeah, look it up. It was a year ago that we wrote it.
And we don't have 3 days until Wednesday.
Right. So either way, it'll be, let's move on the agenda because we still have a bunch to.
What about the other resolution we voted on tonight?
That one has urgency.
Okay, that's the difference.
Yes.
Yeah, so here are, just so that we're on the same page. Yes, it says unless time-sensitive draft resolutions presented should be provided at least 3 days in advance of the board meeting. The same standard applies to resolutions presented at committee meetings.
Yeah. That was so that people get to read things before it's presented to the board. That was the whole rationale.
Right, so then.
I think we can present it in November. It doesn't sound like there's a point in time in which our vote, unless this committee dissolves, becomes irrelevant.
Let's figure this out offline. We can figure out if it needs to come back to transportation or if it goes straight to, we can figure that out offline.
Now, if this was a complicated resolution, perhaps it would need to be presented to the committee in full written form, but this is really simple.
Yeah, but again, let's figure this out offline. Either way, we have someone writing a resolution. We'll figure out if it needs to come back here. Tabit, before we move on, just see your hand there.
Yes, just so I emailed and followed up with correspondence to the, again, I believe is the manager. And would that not count as a notice? Because I explicitly asked if there was anything I need to do and they told me no. And then I just took it upon myself to at least, notify the public. So we did.
Separate internal.
Okay.
Bylaws issue on how the resolution works. But yeah, thank you for that. We'll figure out and communicate offline about the specifics of that. Okay, thank you guys. We're gonna move on. We'll try to make this quick. Resolution calling on DOT to open the planned Queensboro Bridge pedestrian path on the South Outer Roadway without further delay and without regard to delays on construction on the upper level roadway. So very briefly, history on this. DOT presented to us several months ago where they way before that, in 2021, I believe, Mayor de Blasio committed to opening up the South Outer Roadway on the Queensboro Bridge to pedestrians. Currently, the North Outer Roadway houses both pedestrians and both directions of the bike lane. It is extremely crowded, and that led to the proposal to move the bike lane or the pedestrian path to separate the two and move the pedestrian path to the South Outer Roadway. Very quickly, if you have not been on that path in recent times, I am sharing, this is what it looks like. So you could see there is this small area to the left and both directions of bikes on the right. It's extraordinarily tight. This is probably the worst point, to be fair, but it's not much better throughout the rest of the bridge. It's really, really tight. I'm on here fairly regularly myself, as a pedestrian primarily, and then become an ad, of course. I'm on there pretty regularly as a pedestrian, and it's just extraordinarily tight. You have bikes, especially with e-mobility vehicles that are probably not legal, going at very high speeds oftentimes at very close distances between, again, both directions of the cyclists and the pedestrians in both directions. It's really bad. I can't understate how uncomfortable it is to operate on here.
Jason, it was a few months ago unlit in pitch darkness. Has that improved?
I have not been on there at night. I don't know. Sorry, was that the question?
Yeah, has it improved?
Oh, sorry.
Have they gotten
in
their
general.
lights working?
In terms of the lights, I don't know. I haven't noticed that myself, the issue with the lights. I've only really been on there during daylight. Hold on one second on questions. So this has been the state for a very long time. In 2021, the Blasio administration announced the plan to open up the South Outer Roadway. There was no action for a very long time. About a couple months ago, DOT presented the plan to open up the South Outer Roadway to pedestrians. There was a plan they had announced that they wanted to wait to open up the South Outer Roadway to sync that with construction on the upper roadway of the bridge, which is currently closed for construction in order to mitigate the traffic impact. That project is delayed. The work on the upper section of the bridge has been delayed due to, it was communicated to us, an issue with a roadway plate, I believe. So given the delay on the upper roadway not being ready to open, they have announced that they are delaying the opening of the South Outer Roadway, not because there's a problem with the South Outer Roadway, but because they are concerned about the traffic impacts of closing off for traffic the South Outer Roadway before the upper roadway is reopened. I have proposed a resolution asking DOT to move forward with opening the South Outer Roadway despite the delay in construction on the upper roadway, and that the urgency of the safety issues and the tight overcrowding on the Queensboro Bridge on this North Outer Roadway creates the need to move forward with this despite the potential traffic impacts. Yes.
Would it be possible to add a request to fix the lighting on the north roadway?
I feel like that should be separate.
What's that?
I feel like that should be separate.
A separate resolve.
I also think that maybe is a service request. And does that need to be in a
reach out
resolution?
to me tonight or tomorrow.
All right, I'll reach you.
Yeah. Yes, I'll make a note to reach out to DOT about that.
Thank you.
Brendan,
Okay,
do you
so
have
I withdraw
reso
what I
handy?
said.
Do you have the reso handy to share?
Can you say that
Do you
again?
have the resolution handy to share?
Yes, I do. Just a moment.
I have a clarifying question.
Yes.
The South Outer Roadway would be pedestrians and the north would be bicycles only.
That's right. B, I saw your hand. If you want to go.
Yeah, I'm always confused. So help me clarify. Is this resolution dealing with structure in CB6 or is it the next CB? Is this ours? I always am confused when we talk about this roadway.
Yeah, I think technically, Brendan, go ahead. Did you have?
So, considering that it's the Queensboro Bridge, and I could be wrong, but it would in a way involve six.
The approach is on 59th Street.
Yeah, it would involve, since the approach is on 59th Street, it would involve 6 and 8. And then our counterparts in Queens, I think Queens Community Board 1.
I think it's one.
If I remember correctly. So it's a multi-board thing, and when DOT presented to us, it was multiple boards.
I know there was wide support for this project in Queens, Community Board 1, if that's it. It'd be great if we passed this and also had a similar resolution passed on their side to help push this forward. Similarly, I think it'd be great and we can reach out to advocate for that at CB8 as well. But yes, it's a borderline issue, but I think we have the purview, given that the entry is on 59th Street, which we have half of. That's my opinion.
And this was presented to us by DOT, right?
The original plan to open the
Right.
South Outer roadway.
So they thought we were involved.
Yeah, they did seek out our feedback
Yeah.
on this, a few months ago. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I mean, wait, can we read the specifics? Before?
Let's read the resolves.
So yeah, it's fairly straightforward. I mean,
You want to read them out loud? Because it's hard to read all of this.
I can read the whole thing. So basically, we have resolved Manhattan Community Board 6 urges New York City Department of Transportation to prioritize the safety of pedestrians and cyclists and open the pedestrian path on the Queensboro Bridge South Outer roadway without further delay, regardless of the status of upper roadway construction. And be it further resolved that Manhattan Community Board 6 requests that the Department of Transportation provide a clear and updated timeline for pedestrian paths opening and communicate this timeline to the public. I'll note, in the whereas clauses, I referenced the previous resolution that we passed in support of this proposal. And we've made a number of recommendations of things we wanted to see on the pedestrian path. So that I see that as still standing. And it's not
So that's right.
superseding. Yeah. This is, I think, limited in scope to the delay and comparing the opening with the upper roadway construction.
Do you want to state that you incorporate the details of the prior resolution?
I just referenced it, Brendan, if you could scroll up slightly. I didn't want to bring up with the link. I have on there the whereas Manhattan Community Board 6 passed a resolution supporting the conversion of the South Outer roadway to a pedestrian only path on April 3rd, 2024. So I think what I was trying to signify there was that resolution still stands. This doesn't supersede that. We want the conversion of the roadway. We could add something along the lines of like.
You could add a couple of words like a more detailed resolution. Or a detailed resolution.
Yeah, I'm supportive of that if you want to put.
Does anybody have any comment on that?
I have a comment. I'd like to ask this, like. When it says about like a pedestrian only path, what about cyclists?
So the cyclists will maintain the northern path where it is today. So that'll become a two-way path for cyclists, and then you'll have the pedestrian path only on the South Outer roadway. It's similar to the setup that we have on many of the other East River crossings.
Williamsburg Bridge,
Thank you.
Manhattan Bridge particular, right? A detailed.
Manhattan Community Board 6 passed a detailed resolution supporting conversion of the roadway.
I'll say detailed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and perhaps maybe add in at the end, like with specific feedback, supporting conversion of that way, pedestrian path. Detailed resolution, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that encourages somebody to look up the other resolution.
Any other comments? Does anybody have a motion?
I'll put in a motion to support this.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, any other further discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to vote. Brendan?
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Michael Cohen,
In favor.
B. Disman,
In favor, and you may lose me, I'm losing power, so if I'm off, you know what happened.
All right, thank you.
okay. Hopefully we'll be able to keep you.
Okay.
Maya Donahue,
In favor.
Brock Friedman,
In favor.
Jason Fromowitz.
In favor.
Eric Goldberg,
In favor.
Marion Rowe,
In favor.
Larry Shire,
In favor.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor.
and Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With all 10 committee members in favor, this resolution passes.
All right, thank you very much.
And just to clarify, this will be before Wednesday's school board?
Yes.
Understood.
All right, moving on to the last item on the agenda. We have potential removal of budget request for a bus depot and pedestrian counters in Manhattan Community District 6. So this came to my attention from the budget committee. These were long-standing requests on our budget requests. And the ask was if we would consider removing them, basically specifically to the counters, just that there hasn't been any action on it, and it wasn't really clear exactly what we would gain. Myron, you might have some more insight.
Well, the reason why the request is there for a bus depot, we're really talking about a bus terminal that mirrors the Port Authority bus terminal on the west side. There had been, prior to the construction of the Corinthian condominium near the Queens Midtown Tunnel, something called the East Side Airlines Terminal, which provided bus service via the tunnel to the airports. It was a regular bus station, like a Greyhound station. And we have a lot of issues with curbside bus pickups, no protection, no shelter. It's a national problem where intercity bus operators are no longer able to provide shelter for their passengers. So at least in concept, I think we should keep it in our resolution, even if there isn't any current activity. There might conceivably be a way to incorporate something, build something, maybe in the site of Soloviev. When he's building a casino, you could have a place for parking buses in that footprint. In fact, something we had discussed here at our meetings. And so even if it's at that location instead of the original location, I think this would encourage that.
It's not an issue. I think the confusion on the budget committee's part was if this was an issue of block bus lanes or like the.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So you could say bus terminal. If not a bus depot, it's a distinction without really much of a difference.
Yeah.
So I think being on the budget committee, and then I'm gonna have to sign off because I have 2% left of power. The reason for the discussion is this had been a discussion in the city for a while. It is off the table now. Do we want to use all of our budgetary thing on something that is not even reality, what people are not talking about now? So that was the reason to come back to transportation.
Well, the answer is yes. And I cited an example of where this might be something that we could press for, to the degree that we have any influence on that project on the big hole in the ground on First Avenue.
Any thoughts from anybody else on this?
I'm torn. I understand, Larry, exactly what you're saying. This is in theory, something we definitely want. I think we have to ask ourselves probably two questions, right? The first question is the Soloviev site. There's a lot of opportunity cost to any square footage we use there. Something like an East Side Port Authority would have a lot of square feet. And is bus storage square footage something, a trade-off we're necessarily willing to make, or have we done a deep dive on it? And secondary is they've asked us to look at this through the lens of feasibility, impact, and community support. And it doesn't really have a ton of community support outside of niche bus people like you and I. It doesn't have a ton of feasibility in the near term. And in terms of community impact, I mean, I think it certainly would be beneficial, but I don't see it as something that we would rank in high from the drop.
No, I wouldn't rank it high, but may I respond? Soloviev has not learned whether it will get approval for a casino. If it does have approval for a casino, there may be a great pressure to bring busloads of people into that facility, in which case not having them park on the street like our MTA buses park on the street could be something desirable. I mean, this is not a very specific request here in the budget, but I'd like to keep a placeholder for it, at least for the foreseeable future.
Does any of the West Side Port Authority bus terminal reconstruction Does that, and the announcement of that project mitigate the need for this at all, in your view, given?
No.
No.
So in Atlantic City, casinos have their own private bus terminals, like that could be something we could, if it comes to pass that we lose the casino fight, mandating an internal bus terminal on their dime, is a separate fight.
Well, it's the concept of taking buses, away from the curbs, that, you know, and there may be other opportunities that present themselves in the future. Nobody could have predicted 9/11. That opened up a huge area for reimagination. I'm not saying that we're gonna have a disaster, but we could remain in favor of having buses service passengers, particularly those people who want to go north and east from New York City, which are not well served presently from Port Authority Bus Terminal because of the vehicles having to travel in traffic in order to get to the Queens Midtown Tunnel.
There's nothing stopping us from like taking this out and then putting it back in when it is needed, right?
I suspect it'll be forgotten.
You're not going anywhere, Larry.
Like I said, there could be disasters.
I just feel like this isn't, like you delete it and then it's gone forever, right? Like we could always add it back in.
Well, you give it a low priority, but it is something of import, just like the Second Avenue subway phase 3 should never be removed until the thing is built.
Well, but I think the difference there is that is still in the topic of public conversation, whereas.
Well, there's no money for phase 3 yet.
Yeah.
Similarly, there's no money for a East Side bus terminal.
I want to see this through the lens of the budget committee, as they, you know, your response is actually give it a lower priority, and I mean,
Well, in effect, replacing the East Side Airlines terminal, which was an MTA project. They also had a Coliseum, which they sold off, but that was replaced by the Javits Center. What we have on the east side is no replacement.
No doubt. I don't disagree with you at all. I think you and I see eye to eye on almost every transportation issue. I think from the budget perspective is the cost to them is viewed as the quantity of requests. That committee has sort of asked us to streamline.
Well, we had a second item here, which I would support removing.
Yeah, so we could, I think, segment that for the time being. I appreciate, Larry, your strong feelings. Do we want to, I tend to agree with Gabe. I do agree, while I value the need for the bus and agree with the need for a bus terminal. And I don't want this to be forgotten. I do think it will sort of fall on deaf ears and that it's not something that's topical today. And I do think it would serve from the budget committee's perspective of streamlining the requests. I think it would be in our interest to remove this if only because.
Let me give you an analogy. There was a similar push just like this to remove the pinch point. You may remember Gene Santoro was pushing really hard to get that out of the budget resolutions. We kept it in, and now we're going to get a bridge at the pinch point because it was visible. It kept coming up, and I'm making a similar argument here.
But I guess the pinch point feels different, but yes.
Well, yeah, it should feel different.
No, I'm just saying it feels like, yes.
It's considerably less money.
Yeah, and there's a very clear
If we do
need.
take this out of the budget, is something going to replace it, or does our money then, whatever this was allocated, get dispersed to the other projects that we have?
It's sort of, you want to answer them?
Well,
Are they just trying to shorten the list? Is that it?
Basically.
In a sense, yeah. I mean, because it wasn't actually allocated anything, and the feeling on the budget committee is if our requests are
aspirational?
If we have fewer, more tangible requests that have kind of a more immediate feasibility, they're more likely to actually get those funds.
Okay.
And I'm not
Is that
looking for the
true,
funds
though?
next year either.
That seems like just a hypothesis. And it may be not true
He
at
has
all. If you
said
just have a
this.
few requests, oh, they only have a few requests, I wouldn't worry about them.
He has brought this up as a way of successfully having done business.
That,
I think she's, yeah.
that it does matter.
It does
Yes.
matter. Well,
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think that.
Saw the
If
video.
the list goes from 200 to 150, it's not like we have 3.
Well, and then
Right, for the
also
community
consider the
boards.
power of reintroduction.
Reductio ad absurdum, right? If we had 1,000, they'd all be meaningless. So
Yeah.
there is some value in trimming.
How many do we have?
1,000.
Brendan?
We have, last count, something like 48, once you
That's not
include
that bad.
capital expenses.
So it's not 1,000.
Yeah.
So if every committee trims one, we get down to the 30s.
All right, so I've proposed that we trim one.
Okay, so how about this? Let's table this one for the moment, and then we've got the other request, which is removing the pedestrian counters. Does anyone know what the background on?
Yes.
Please.
And it relates to the pinch point. And this was to develop the data to justify the budget for putting a bridge where there currently is, or there had been a 3-foot wide path for bicycles and pedestrians. You think that the north roadway of
No, it's
Queensboro Bridge was bad. This was far worse.
Yes.
This is where?
This was at
This is still the
14th
pinch
Street.
point.
What, between
Oh,
14th
no,
and
this budget
15th
item is
Street?
still the pinch point that you're saying?
No, no,
No, but the history,
Yeah.
he's asking the history.
The counter was asked, the pedestrian counter was asked for to justify.
Oh, pedestrian
fixing
counter, I
the-
didn't know what that was.
Yeah,
Until
yeah.
now.
So we knew how many people
Yes.
passed through that area to know that there would be
Yeah.
a significant impact and rationale for doing it.
And so Larry, you support the removal of?
Yes,
this item?
because it's now moot.
Yes.
So which one is being supported for removal?
Take away the
pedestrian
counters.
counter. Is anybody opposed to removing the pedestrian counter budget item request? No. No. Mike, you opposed?
Yes, I'd like to keep the budget for the pedestrian counter study and for the bus depot. It's a recommendation that like deadlines be set for use of the funds and like that a timetable is established, or else the project will be canceled if it's not done in a certain time frame.
Well, we look at these things from year to year anyway.
Yeah, it would be reevaluated, every year. Okay, so I think, we have consensus to remove the pedestrian counters. In terms of the bus depot, so now we've removed one, do we want to take a vote on where people stand here on removing that?
Or you wanna wait a month, give Larry another month?
I think we
Fight
actually
for it?
don't have another month,
When's
Brendan.
Yeah, so, like budget requests for fiscal year 2026 are being voted on at full board on Wednesday, so. You know, we could look at this another month, but by that point, we'd be looking at budget requests for fiscal year 2027. Which, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that, just be aware that any change would not have an impact on the budget request that we're supposed to submit to the city by the end of this month.
So I think, yeah, unless there's any more discussion on that, I think we move to a vote on what, if you are if in favor or opposed to removing the budget request item for the bus parking?
Okay, let's do it.
No, for bus depot.
For the bus depot, sorry, yes. So if you are in favor of the removal or you are opposed to the removal? Do I need a second? Well, it's not a resolution, right?
It's not a resolution, it's a budget request.
Yeah, okay, so then let's move to vote on it.
Yeah, and I'll do it by roll call, just so that way it's clear and on the record. So when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor of removing or are opposed to removing. Michael Cowan.
Opposed?
B has dropped off. Maya Donahue.
In favor?
Rob Friedman.
Opposed.
Jason Fromowitz.
Opposed.
Eric Goldberg.
Opposed.
Marion Rowe.
Okay, I just got super confused.
Yeah.
We are in favor of keeping or not
Remove it,
keeping?
yeah, remove it.
Yes, if
Opposed, you keep it in favor, you remove it.
the question is, are you in favor of removing?
I am in favor of removing. Thank you. You all just lost me.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it is late, I fully understand.
Also that.
Yes.
Larry Shire,
Opposed.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor, very sorry, Larry.
You're not sorry. You're not sorry. Your vote speaks for it.
Jerry Weinstein.
Sorry.
In
I'm
favor.
Okay, so 4 committee members are in favor of removal, 5 are opposed to removal, so that means the request will stay on.
It's gonna happen this year.
It's happened, we're getting it.
It's happening. I can see it.
Now I hope the
The bus
Yankees
seat.
win tonight.
That I'm opposed to. I'm in favor of, we almost.
We still have to finish up, unfortunately. I'm going to waive the chair's
Yes.
report. We now have older new business. Does anybody have any
There is
older new
none.
business? All right, seeing none, I don't need a motion to adjourn. Seeing no business, further business, the meeting is adjourned at
Thanks, everyone.
9:41 PM. Thank you for staying on.
Have a nice night.
It's been a very productive meeting.